But the Quran was thought to be directly revealed from Allah to the Prophet Muhammad and written down in its present form by the Prophet's earliest follower. Okay, when you go into a mosque, in Islam, it is forbidden to have pictures depicted of people, animals, faces, because that seems to Muslims like making something in a graven image. So there wouldn't be statues of people or saints or prophets or whatever. There would not be pictures of Muhammad. Some of the earliest Muslims said, look at what the Christians did with their prophet Jesus. They started making mosaics and then paintings of their prophet Jesus. And then because you make something into an image, you start worshiping it. And
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Alhamdulillahilladzi arsala rasulahu bil huda wa dinil haqq liyuzhirahu 'ala dini kullihi wa kafa billahi syahida. Asyhadu an la ilaha illallah wahdahu la syarikalah wa asyhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluhu la nabiyya ba'dah. Berjumpa lagi dengan channel saya Mars Techno. Saya doakan semoga semua sahabat dalam keadaan sehat selalu. Pada video kali ini kami akan menampilkan
penjelasan seorang tokoh Kristen yang jujur mengenai ajaran agama Islam kepada Jamaat Gereja Lutheran di Amerika Serikat.
Nah sahabat, mari kita saksikan saja videonya dan saya akan sedikit mereaksinya.
But the Quran was thought to be directly revealed from Allah to the Prophet Muhammad and written down in its present form by the Prophet's earliest followers. And it is not able to be directly translated into another language. And so one of the Qurans that I have, and this is pretty common, is when you get a Quran in your language, in my case it's English, then I have English down one column and Arabic down the other, so that you can see the actual original language. I can't read Arabic, but it's right there and it's beautiful. It's written in calligraphy. So it's not thought to be directly translatable. Now we can kind of understand that because many of us know different languages, and you know when you translate from one language to another, anything, you lose some of the nuance, some of the meaning, and so it's thought that when you do that with Arabic, you're going to lose something, but especially because it's the direct words of God. Also, the Quran has often been chanted. And so when you chant it, and it's most known historically in its oral tradition, chanting it, singing it, then you're going to lose something if you translate that lyrical, the song-like quality. And also, Arabic is calligraphy. As I've said, we in the West have learned calligraphy through Islam, through the influence of Arabic. We have not learned our calligraphy in the West through Japanese or Chinese calligraphy, because they have calligraphy too, but we haven't learned it that way. We've learned it through Arabic. And so calligraphy is beautiful script, and so when you see it even written, there's some beauty there. And so there's the thought also that you can't completely translate that into another font because you lose the beauty, the artwork of the calligraphy. By the way, have any of you ever gone into a mosque? I know, Kevin, you and I were in a mosque the other day. Have you been in a mosque, any of you? Okay, when you go into a mosque, in Islam, it is forbidden to have pictures depicted of people, animals, faces, because that seems to Muslims like making something in a graven image. So there wouldn't be statues of people or saints or prophets or whatever. There would not be pictures of Muhammad. Some of the earliest Muslims said, look at what the Christians did with their prophet Jesus. They started making mosaics and then paintings of their prophet Jesus. And then because you make something into an image, you start worshiping it. And look what the Christians did with their prophet. When they made him into a picture, they started worshiping it and believing Jesus was God. So we're not going to do that. You get that line of thinking? Okay, so from the Muslim perspective, it's dangerous to do that, and we're not going to do that. We're not going to make images of Muhammad, etc. You probably have heard sometimes protest when people make a cartoon of Muhammad, Muslims saying, please don't do, that's not what we want. We do not ever want to worship Muhammad. We have absolute respect for him as a prophet, but we don't want to go the route that the Christians did, frankly. So when you go into a mosque, what you'll see around the world is gorgeous decoration, but not in human face form or animal face form. What you see is a couple of things. First of all, beautiful geometric patterns. So gorgeous mosaics and geometric patterns, incredible artwork with beautiful geometry, but also you'll see Arabic script, beautiful calligraphy, written all over the place. Parts of the Quran and then parts of the Sunnah, the custom of the Prophet, written in beautiful script all over. So those are the ways that it's most commonly decorated in a mosque. Okay, so the term Quran literally means reading or recitation. And as I said, oral recitation has been the one that's been favored throughout the years. It's commonly regarded as the most beautiful work ever composed in the Arabic language. It is regarded as a miracle of God, especially because Muhammad is thought to have been illiterate.
That's what I was wondering.
Yeah.
How
Yeah.
could he write down
Miraculously. Yes.
something? Okay.
Today, the Quran is the world's most read and memorized book. Imagine memorizing the entire New Testament. This is 4/5 the size of the New Testament. It's pretty big. So the Quran begins with a prayer called the opening. Here's the prayer. Listen to this. In the name of God, the compassionate, the merciful. Praise be to God, Lord of the universe, the compassionate, the merciful, sovereign of the day of judgment. You alone we worship, and to you alone we turn for help. Guide us to the straight path, the path of those whom you have favored, not of those who have incurred your wrath, nor of those who have gone astray. Okay? Just a prayer, God, we're yours. And that's what Islam is, this absolute submission. God, we are yours. You are the compassionate, the merciful, the sovereign. Guide us to the straight path. All right, secondly, so we just touched on the Quran. Secondly, the Prophet Muhammad. Let's talk about who he is. Islam is purely monotheistic, as I said, and they're very careful to regard Muhammad as only a person. He is not God. Allah and Muhammad are not the same thing. Allah is God. Muhammad is a person. But even so, Islam celebrates Muhammad as the most perfect of all human beings, referring to him as a jewel among stones. So this is his life, just some highlights of his life. He was born at about, we're not exactly sure, but about AD or CE, Common Era, 570. Around the year 570, into the leading tribe of Mecca. And Mecca is a city on the Arabian Peninsula. And you probably know Mecca now because, Muslims go there on pilgrimage. So he was born into Mecca. It was an important center of commerce and trade at the time because it's right there on the water. He was orphaned at an early age, and Muhammad grew up with his uncle. He was known as an honest, hardworking, dependable boy. He worked hard as a shepherd and then later in the trading business, so he was very diligent as a worker, even as a child. Eventually, he became a caravan manager for a wealthy widow named Khadijah, and she becomes an important person in his life. So he worked for her, and eventually they married when he was 25 and she was about 40 years old. Older woman there. This couple had at least 6 children, and they enjoyed a long and happy marriage together. So along with raising his family and also pursuing his business interests, which he kept going, he also spent a lot of time in religious contemplation, and he would like to go to this cave on Mount Hira to meditate. Probably quieter than his home with 6 kids. So he went to Mount Hira to meditate, to spend time in prayer and time with God. And according to tradition, during one of his visits to the cave, the archangel Gabriel appeared to him in a dream. Now we know Gabriel, right? Mm-hmm. Where did Gabriel appear in our stories?
Mary.
To Mary, right? And Joseph in a dream, okay? So Gabriel, the word angel means messenger, like messenger from God. The word El means God. So an angel is a messenger from God. So Gabriel from God. And he appeared to Muhammad and commanded him, recite. He issued the command and he pressed hard on Muhammad's body. And Muhammad feared that he would even die because he was pressing so hard. And finally, in desperation, Muhammad asked the angel, "What shall I recite?" And Gabriel answered, this is from the Quran. Gabriel said, "Recite in the name of your Lord who created man from clots of blood. Recite, your Lord is the most bountiful one, who by the pen taught man what he did not know." So this event occurred in the year 610, and it is celebrated still as it's called the Night of Power and Excellence. The Night of Power and Excellence. And this marked the beginning of Muhammad's career as a prophet. So you might know this if you've been in my Bible study. The word prophet is a word that means mouthpiece, a mouthpiece of God. Somebody who, it's not about their intelligence particularly, although Muhammad was an incredibly intelligent man, but it's not just about his intelligence. Or when we're talking about Moses or Abraham or any of the prophets, it's about people becoming available to be used by God as a mouthpiece for the voice of God. So he then became a prophet, saying, "Okay, you can use me as you will, God, to share your message." So that was the earliest recitation contained in the Quran, but he would receive many more visits from the angel and many more things to recite and then write down. Eventually they wrote him down over the next 22 years of his life until his death in 632. So at this first night, you have a question? Go ahead.
Didn't he have several wives?
That was a much later phase in his life, not for a long time.
All right.
So, and we'll get to all of that.
All right.
What that's all about. So, when he first had this experience with Gabriel, he told Khadijah, his wife, about this experience, and she became the first convert to Islam. And he at first found very few others willing to listen to him. After 10 years, several hundred families were Muslim.
Masya Allah, sebuah penjelasan tokoh Kristen yang saja jujur dan fair saat menjelaskan agama Islam kepada Jamaat Gereja Kristen Lutheran di Amerika Serikat. Di awal video beliau menjelaskan tentang Al-Quran yang diturunkan langsung dari Allah kepada Nabi Muhammad melalui malaikat Jibril. Saat kita melihat terjemahan Al-Quran dalam bahasa lain, biasanya di kolom sebelah kiri adalah bahasa asli dalam bahasa Arab dan kolom sebelah kanan adalah terjemahan bahasa Anda. Jadi tetap ada bahasa originalnya dalam bahasa Arab. Menurutnya bahasa Arab sangat indah dalam bentuk kaligrafi yang memang pertama dipelajari di dunia barat. Beliau juga menanyakan kepada jamaah apakah ada yang pernah datang ke masjid. Dijelaskan bahwa di masjid adalah sangat dilarang memuat gambar wajah manusia ataupun binatang. Jadi di masjid tidak ada patung atau wajah Nabi Muhammad. Pada generasi awal Muslim mengatakan, lihat orang Kristen mereka awalnya menggambarkan Nabi Yesus dan akhirnya mereka mulai menyembahnya. Itulah yang sangat dijaga oleh kaum Muslim. Mereka sangat hati-hati dalam kemurnian monoteisme. Allah adalah Tuhan dan Muhammad adalah hanya seorang nabi. Mereka adalah sesuatu yang berbeda. Sebuah kemurnian ajaran monoteisme. Di akhir video, beliau juga menjelaskan tentang Nabi Muhammad. Sejarah beliau dari anak-anak sampai beliau menikahi Khadijah. Beliau sering berkhalwat di Gua Hiro. Suatu saat di Gua Hiro saat sedang berkhalwat beliau didatangi malaikat Jibril. Beliau sangat takut dan didekap oleh malaikat Jibril untuk membaca surat Al-Alan. Saat itulah awal Muhammad diangkat menjadi nabi. Beliau menjelaskan peristiwa tersebut dengan rasa takut kepada istrinya Khadijah. Khadijah meyakinkan kepada Nabi Muhammad bahwa beliau adalah orang baik dan pasti itu benar dari Tuhan. Dan Khadijah pun akhirnya menjadi mualaf dan pendukung Nabi Muhammad yang pertama. Nah sahabat, mungkin itu saja sedikit video reaksi dari saya. Mudah-mudahan bermanfaat. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.